Hello learners, welcome to Trick Science, the show that rummages through history to find parallels between anthropomorphic mushrooms and men wearing powdered wigs. Cause today, my loyal learners, we're examining the history behind Nintendo's biggest behemoth, the Super Mario series, and more specifically, the more or less unmentioned history before Mario was jumping around smashing the kingdom's residents. As we know, the Mushroom Kingdom has served as a major starting off point or destination for pretty much all of Mario's adventures throughout this endless franchise. It has been said to be the most popular kingdom, but what about it being the most powerful? And while it may not be oozing with military might today, as it has basically no national defense except for two Italian plumbers who either grew up in one of its cities or were flushed into the Mushroom Kingdom via a bathtub, the kingdom still has plenty of advantages over the others, both today and in its past. The Mushroom Kingdom in its heyday, and even today from what we're told in games like Super Mario Odyssey, is said to be rather large, being one of the largest, if not the largest kingdom around. But what if it goes a lot farther than that? What if the Mushroom Kingdom is actually the dominant ruling kingdom that oversees all of the other sub-kingdoms, which once included places like Donkey Kong Island and Dinosaur Land? This is back in the day when the kingdom had a ruler who relied on more than two human plumbers as his entire nation's defense. This makes sense as literally every kingdom that we see, save for Bowser's, has no ruling royalty. The most that we see is Pauline, who is simply a mayor, and Cappy, who is quite possibly the leader of the Cap Kingdom, but not a king. Heck, going beyond Mario Odyssey to every Mario game that doesn't take place in space, or in kingdoms the Mushroom Kingdom didn't know about, the only other royalty we see besides Peach is Daisy. To go along with the complete absence of any other major ruling powers, most of the other kingdoms that we see aren't really that advanced, like at all. But what about places like New Donk City? Well, while New Donk City is advanced, it is a human city, and seeing that the Mushroom Kingdom has more or less always been ruled by humans, New Donk City is just that, a city built by the Mushroom Kingdom for its residents. But if that sounds too far-fetched, just look at New Donk's tech. It's more of a shining example of just how advanced the Mushroom Kingdom truly is. Even within the realm of Peach's Castle and its surrounding Toad Town, they are literally the only kingdom to have running water, electricity, cars, planes, cell phones, cruise liners, televisions. The Koopa Kingdom, although doing its best to keep up through its own propeller tech and quite a bit of magic, just couldn't. With the Mushroom Kingdom ruling over all the other subordinate kingdoms, even the Koopa Kingdom, the less advanced kingdoms most likely governed as principalities or subordinate territories that can have their own leader but ultimately answer to their overarching kingdom. By granting significant degrees of self-government to these sometimes far-reaching kingdoms, the Mushroom Kingdom, or really Mushroom Empire, could keep hold of them while still gaining access to whatever unique goods they had. But why would all these other kingdoms stay under the rule of the Mushroom people and not attempt to revolt? Was it due to the Mushroom King having an outrageous amount of military power? Well, it could be, but what if the benefits of being ruled far outweighed the cons? I mean, just think about it. Being ruled by a more advanced nation means that you would get to share in their technology, and thus the standard of living of your country would drastically increase. Why not join in the fun and being overseen by a powerful, peaceful nation when the alternative is possibly being squashed by whatever greater military force they do have? This is actually a lot like the British Empire back when Great Britain had colonized most of India, parts of Africa, Australia, North America, the Bahamas, and many other islands in the Pacific. Most subordinate countries, which Great Britain allowed to be self-governing so they could keep hold of the exportation of their goods, saw an increase in the standard of living for their populace as the British brought in elements of modernization, education, transportation, and communication by cable. Yes, all was well in the Mushroom Empire, but then something terrible happened. Something that broke the Empire's hold on a few of its far-reaching territories forever. War broke out, specifically between the Mushroom Kingdom and the subordinate Koopa Kingdom. Evidence throughout the series points to a war having happened at some point in the past, possibly resulting in the death of both Bowser's and Peach's parents, who we hardly actually see by the time the first game rolls around. When it comes to Peach's father, King Toadstool, we really only ever see him in the Nintendo comics system, where he is depicted as being pretty dim-witted and scatterbrained, so much so that his daughter has to often perform his duties for him, and his chief mushroom assistant, Wooster, is often arguing with him due to his lack of intelligence. We never actually see Bowser's dad, Morton Koopa Sr., also known as King Koopa, in any official games or comics, only in non-existent fan games like Super Mario Diaper Duty, but he is responsible for creating the many prototype troops that Bowser uses throughout the series. Sounds like someone was gearing up for a full-scale revolt against the ruling kingdom, but really our biggest evidence for war having happened comes from looking at the landscape of the Super Mario series. Have you ever wondered what all these random pipes were doing just lying around in every world that Mario runs through? Well, what if King Toadstool, in either an act of genius or utter stupidity, ordered the construction of a massive warp pipe system to transport both people and whatever goods the kingdom was obtaining from its sub-kingdoms around the world? Really, warp pipe is the most convenient and expedient way to travel throughout the series, so why not spend some resources on its construction and more or less replace those large trading roads? The problem with creating a complete travel and trading system throughout all of the kingdoms is it's a rather massive undertaking, requiring lots of labor and resources, and maybe some of its workers and subordinate kingdoms got tired of the idea. With whatever happened, we can clearly see that the system was never finished. Many of the warp pipes we encounter are unconnected or just lead to dead ends. Quite a number of them were set in place but don't even work, and most likely lead to nowhere. Due to the war that ensued between the two rival kingdoms, the system was never finished, and instead the kingdoms were left with a half-built travel system, some of which were later inhabited by giant killer plants. Even more than this, when looking at the many blocks in the game, especially those awesome question mark boxes that reward you with a power-up whenever you hit them, I think it's these unbreakable boxes that were once Toads, who were originally turned into these golden treasure boxes during the events of the Mushroom Kingdom's Civil War by Morton Koopa Sr. rather than his son Bowser. Evidence for this catastrophe can be found in the official Super Mario Bros. Manual, where it states the quiet, peace-loving mushroom people were turned into mere stones, bricks, and even field horse hair plants, and the Mushroom Kingdom fell into ruin. On a later page, the manual continues to say, if you come across mushrooms who have been turned into bricks or made invisible, they reward you by giving you a power boost. So these many blocks are Toads, but more specifically Toads that once fought in the war against King Koopa. It was all of this that set the stage for the Super Mario games that we play today. What this war also did was leave both of the kingdoms weak and vulnerable. Not so weak that kingdoms like the Lakeside or Luncheon kingdoms could declare all-out war, but weak enough that neither kingdom, like the current Mushroom Empire, could keep hold of its farther out territories. And this is where part 2 of our episode continues. Anyways, that's just some science. Trick science! See you learners on the flip side!